Now that I've got my document set up and all my reference lines created, I can erase away the layer 1 of the photograph that I'm working with. And I'm going to take my background layer and fill it in with just a 50% gray. Shift Delete, choose 50%, and now it's 50% gray from there. The next thing I want to do is to load up all of my skin tone color swatches that I've downloaded. In the Swatches palette, click at the top right-hand corner, then choose Load Swatches. And I've got mine saved on my jump drive right here. You can open up the skin color swatches, and this will add on all of the skin tone colors to the bottom of your Swatches palette. Now keep in mind, I've got a lot of skin tones to work from. The main thing right now we want to concern ourselves with is just the value of my skin tones. What's light, what's medium, and what's dark. Later on, once we start looking at our photograph, we can determine, does it need to be a little bit more red or does it need to be a little bit more of another color. Just be aware that your skin tone does change based on if it's in a shadow, if it's got a lot of blood in it, if it's a really thick part of your skin, or even a thin part of your skin. To set up the photograph so I can see both my reference and my painting layer, I'm going to move my layers out of the way. I'm also going to dock my swatches back over here. That'll give me a little bit more room. I've got my painting set up on the left-hand side, and I've opened up the photograph in a completely other side. And so now I can have them working side by side. Now let's start painting. I'm going to choose just a basic blocky, not a round brush, but one of my textured style brushes. Open up my swatches, and I'm going to block in just the highlights and just the shadows, not even worrying about the midtones at this point. Everything that's a midtone, I'll just kind of decide whether it should be a shadow or a highlight. I do have my pressure sensitivity turned on, and let's look with the highlights first. I'm choosing my paint layer. Be sure you're working in the right layer. And on here, this is where I'll paint. Very good. So this will be my highlights that I'll work in. In every place that is a plane on here that should be a highlight, all I'm going to do is give it a simple highlighted area. Now you can see I'm kind of quickly blocking this in. I'm not even worrying about if it stays in the line or not. All I care about is what's in highlight and what's not. This area would be perhaps in highlight since it's a cheek. Same way for this area. Now that I've got the highlights done, we'll grab a shadow and block in some shadows. Now that I have it very, very high contrast, you can start to really see the volumetric form. I could even turn off my reference lines and you get an idea of where each of the planes are. From here, we can start adding the midtone values. Then you'll start to really see your form pop out. Turn back on our references. Choose a good midtone skin color from our references palette. We'll say this one right here. Whoop. Too yellow. There we go. And start painting into this one. Remember, stay inside of your planes for now. Later on, we'll start mixing them together and giving them better form. If you hear some rattling, that's my wife. You can see now how just a little bit of detail can start to really show through once I start adding my midtones to each individual plane. finding the proper value first is most important. You can tell that the colors are off by a little bit, but later on I can go back in, start blending it around and adding a little bit more texture with some of my textured brushes. But if I turn off my reference lines, it's starting to look like a really good three-dimensional form. Next, we can start to zoom in and add more details. But first, I'm going to kind of give an indication of some background and even an indication of the clothing that he's wearing. This will really ground my subject for now. To pick up those colors, I've got my brush. I'm going to hold down my Option and just click on the area on his clothes that I want to fill in with that particular color. So in this case, we'll give him some quick dark area for his shirt, a little bit of blue, this part's more in shadow. Be careful to keep the outline. We do want to give him some white for his t-shirt. A little bit of blue up top here. And then also some gray for his sports coat. Even the sports coat has shadow area, so we do want to be mindful of that. And a highlight area. As for the background, what I like to do, as soon as we get to it, what I like to do is to have one side be lighter and another side get a little bit darker. To do this, I am going to work on my background layer. Since the highlight is coming from the right side of my background is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to choose a darker than middle gray, and just paint in that particular area. You can see how this makes the highlighted area pop out a whole lot more just by doing that little bit right there. Since the shadows are on the left side, I'm going to choose a lighter tone and paint that lighter tone on this side. This will make the shadows pop out a lot more. And then as they start to meet in the middle, this will become more of a middle gray, and it'll start to blend together between the two. If you want, you can lower the opacity, start overlapping each one like this. So now I've got just a quick, simple indication of a background. Background is not the most important in this particular style of painting. Instead, what we really want to focus on is just getting those good values changes. So I can go back later and fix that up as well. Now that I've got a good foundation for how I want everything to look, I'm going to start zooming in and working on the different details of the eyes, the ears, the nose, and other facial features, working out from there.